not speak up? Okay. Okay. I'm going to switch spots here with Coach. I'll let him go with the statement. It looks like you guys started a queue. Jeremy Warner will be up first on questions. Perfect.
Good morning. Yeah, Wisconsin, on to the next. They just continue to get easier in this league. Really proud of our guys after the Indiana game, a game which I really felt like we weren't extremely sharp. I was very disappointed in our first half defensively because we have been improving there drastically. And second half, we made those changes. We were much better. I'm excited. It was a game that was tough for Io. Io wasn't his normal self, and yet guys stepped into plays and made plays that were normally the plays that he makes. And so I'm excited about that. And we found a way. We did it with our defense. We did it with some great hustle plays, some great rebound plays, and then we executed down the stretch. So Wisconsin, one of the oldest teams in the country, tremendous experience, tremendous knowledge. They know how to win. They obviously were a co-champion last year in this league. They're right there again. They hurt you in a lot of ways offensively. They can post you with their guards. They're big, step out and shoot it with Reavers and Potter. I'm a big fan of the Wall kid. He does so many things. He's really kind of turning into a point forward for them. Their bench, they're getting great production off their bench. Davis the other night comes in and is 4 of 4 from the three in 16 or 17 minutes. Anderson does a great job at the point for him. So like every other game in this league, it'll be a grinded out dogfight. They're great defensively and make you earn everything, and we'll have to be very sharp.
Hey, Brad, I'm just wondering, because we're starting to see reports out, do you have any insight into the Michigan game, whether that's been officially postponed or not?
No, nothing. Right now it's Wisconsin, it's Michigan next Tuesday until somebody else in the league says anything differently. That's the plan. We have heard, I tell you, if we have heard nothing to the contrary. Just we're planning on playing. So until somebody tells us differently, and it's one game at a time, and it's COVID. So a lot of things happen day to day, and it's Wisconsin tomorrow.
And I know this is bigger picture, but we're getting to the point where the Big Ten race is obviously becoming a little clearer. Obviously with COVID, we don't know, probably teams won't play the same amount of games. Have you heard from the Big Ten, or do you have any thoughts on how we should crown a champion given what these games will look like?
Well, I think the one thing that we spent a great deal of time, Jeremy, this summer talking about was that same situation. I don't know what that answer is yet. I think it's we're going to have to wait and see. I don't know what lies ahead for Nebraska. What lies ahead? We've got 2 games left with Nebraska. We've got a game that's been postponed with Michigan State. Michigan's obviously fallen 3 or 4 games behind. I don't know what that looks like yet. I know we've got a lot of really smart people in our league office who are constantly generating league schedules and new league schedules. So we'll have to see at the end, Jeremy. I don't have a very good answer to that right now because I don't know anything.
I understand. Thanks, Brad.
Hey, Brad, with 4 starters shooting 39% or better from 3-point range and Wisconsin taking about 40% of its shots from 3, this stacks up to be kind of like the Ohio State game where you're going to have a tough time guarding taller guys at the perimeter. What's your plan?
I'm not telling you that. So you can, put it on the media and let everybody know that. That wouldn't be very smart of me. No, they're a team that there's no secrets with them. They do what they do and they do it very well, and they do shoot it. It's a team that I think they're a little different than Ohio State in the fact that they've got a lot more size in Reavers and Potter. The problem Ohio State tends to give you is that they play, 4 or 5 guys like sizes. But Davidson and Trice are extremely experienced. There's no question you've got to take away what is 40% of their offense, and that's the 3-point line. You've got to make it very challenging for them.
And because you've made Georgie available as the player for today, he's going to have a big role in tomorrow's game, as well as Jacob Grandison on the perimeter. Would you talk about that?
Yeah, they've got a guard out there. There's no doubt. And Georgie and Kofi and all those guys are very, very capable of it. Wisconsin does a great job of engaging the bigs in action through ball screens. Everybody talks about swing and this and that. They do a great job in their ball screen stuff. And you've got to guard them. And you don't do a great job guarding ball screens without your guards being tough as hell, fighting, competing to get over the screens, not get screened. And the better job they do, the easier it will make it for our bigs.
Thanks, Brad.
Hey, Brad, when we spoke with you on Monday, you said it was nice to kind of get back into maybe a more typical rhythm. I guess, what's kind of the difference where maybe you had, the game last Friday, then Tuesday, then Saturday, as opposed to when you were going 10 days, in between games?
Well, Scott, we're a little more on the fly. You've always got to leave a little bit of room for. We went into that break not knowing if we were going to have a game, and so you're a little more unpredictable, unsettled. And here's why it's a little bit funny is, when things were normal, we would turn in a semester's worth of our practice days and our off days. And we had to do that per NCAA rule. And we had to have that all a semester in advance, know what our off day was. You have to give 24 hours notice if something changes. All that is just ripped up and out the window. So the unpredictability, the unknown, those are all things that we have to take into account for. When you get into a nice routine, you know what your schedule is, and you can plan accordingly and know how to rest guys, know how to take days off, know how to plan and prepare. So, there's the advantage of having some familiarity to what we do.
So who likes maybe the set routine better, coaches or players?
Both. And I think the players like to know that, hey, they're going to get a day off on Sunday, and they're going to get a day off after this game, and they get their 2 days prep. So they mentally get into a nice routine, and that's the same with coaches. And right now it's not that. I think you look at the week Penn State had, you look at the week Iowa has. You got 1 day preps. We're all probably going to experience something similar to that down the stretch here. And again, routine is comforting for all of us.
Thank you.
Hey, Coach, I wanted to ask you about Adam. Seemed to be in quite a bit of pain with his hand on the bench there late in Indiana. Any update on his status?
Yeah, they said it was like if you took a hammer and hit your finger, like your fingernail, that would be what happened to him. He got it he had his deal on the ground, and I guess a knee landed on his finger, and it's back to normal. It's fine. There was a little bit of swelling after the game, but he'll be good.
With the way, I know you've been selective with using Georgie and Kofi together. You talked about Wisconsin with their size. What have you liked about what you've seen when Georgie and Kofi have played together? And is there any difference what that brings to the table versus last year?
Well, we get better defensively. And that's one of the things I really like about it. I mean, Georgie gives us, Georgie's an unbelievable off-ball defender. And he does a really good job of keeping the ball out of the post with his denials, his fronts, his three quarters, because he's got great feet and he gets around people. So it gives us a different look. And then he's a guy that, again, is always in the right spot. Georgie's very seldom in the wrong position. So you put a 6'9", 6'10" guy out there in the right position, it covers space. I like that a lot. Then there are some challenges at the other end, but we're starting to figure those out pretty well as well.
Thanks.
Coach, after the Indiana game, I asked you about Georgie's energy. Is there any like pre-game routine or ritual or anything that you see that he does to kind of get his energy up? He's always seems to be in a good mood with us, but anything that you've seen that he does?
If we all had Georgie's approach to life, this would be a pretty good world we'd be living in, because he always finds a way to be jovial and happy and excited and appreciative and every positive adjective you can think of. The other, very seldom do you see Georgie down, or Georgie not in good spirits. It's just his personality. So I don't think there's a preset routine. He finds a way to get excited, get the butterflies going, and that gets his emotions going.
I know you are really appreciative of his personality, but when you think back to when you first met him, did you kind of take anything away from his personality that stuck with you or anything like that?
Well, I loved his energy on the court the first time I saw him play. That's what drew me to him. I mean, he was, like I said, we're in the building recruiting another kid. And, his energy, his talk, and when you pair that with the fact he was saying the right things, he just wasn't spewing a bunch of idle verbiage out there. He was actually saying the right things that meant something, that stuff's invaluable. That's one of those things that those stars that everybody puts by their name, nobody takes those things into account. Those are things that are real issues for coaches, and we love. So, I've been drawn to Georgie since the first 3 minutes of the game I watched him.
Thanks, Coach. I appreciate it.
One more quick one on Georgie, Coach. I know it's not everything as a stat, but Georgie was plus 23 in about 16 minutes against Indiana. What could we read into that, if anything?
That's really good. I mean, we pay a lot of attention to those numbers. We do not. I don't get overly excited about one game plus minuses. If you went back this year, you could probably find one the other way with G. And that's with every player, not just him. But we try to get, at least 5-game scenarios, 7-game scenarios, and look at them, their plus minus overall. And then we take that and we pair that with the lineups that are in and why were they successful? And we start looking at those lineups and then playing it out from there. Maybe this is our best defensive lineup. Maybe this works and why against this opponent. So, there's quite a bit of analysis that goes into it. But that's a huge number in those minutes in a game that was an overtime game.
Cool. Thank you.
Brad, I wanted to.
Oops, sorry, Joey. I forgot you were ahead of me.
I wanted to follow up on the Kofi Georgie pairing together, and when we've seen it, is there something you guys had to do as a coaching staff to make it work a little better on the floor? Or is it just a matter of those two spending more than the calendar year together and kind of understanding each other's games?
It's probably a combination of both, Joey. I think one of the things that has helped us is has helped that lineup is actually playing smaller at times, because it's created a concept for other teams to have to guard us. And when you've got DeMonte shooting 60% and you've got Jacob as a legit threat, teams that space has helped Kofi. It's also helped us and helped Georgie, especially in terms of understanding what it takes at that spot. And it gives us a different look, and it gives us a different read. We're so good at the other. I think we're 6th or 7th in OER nationally. that when we go to Georgie, it's helped us. So it's a combination of both. They interact great together. But actually playing smaller has probably helped the big lineup as much as anything.
And then I just wanted to touch base quickly. We haven't seen Coleman Hawkins in the last two. Is that matchup based, or is there an injury or anything going on with him?
No injury, just Coleman's doing fine. And I would expect him to play tomorrow. It's been a little more, the game the other night was really, really choppy. So there were a lot, of course, when you got 5 scores table issues, and you get long pauses and going to the table for this, you don't have to rest guys as much. And then, being an ESPN network game, you've got really, really long timeouts. So you don't have to get as deep into your bench sometimes, but he's been doing great, and we'll need him tomorrow. We'll need his size and his defense.
Thanks, Brad.
Hey, Brad. Obviously, going to Indiana, you guys knew it was probably going to be a slower paced game. But if I would have told you a couple months ago that you guys were going to shoot 36 or 38% and go to OT there, would you think that your team would have won, and why?
I would, just because I know that's what we talk about all the time. I never count on offense. I never expect to score this or to shoot this. I hope we do, but the only thing I know I can control is our effort, and then being as dialed in as we can to a scouting report, and that starts on the defensive end, and it's all we talk about. It's winning on the road when the ball doesn't go in. How are we going to do that? And the only way we're going to do that is with defense and grit and toughness, and that's why I'm really, really proud of that win, because I think we didn't play very well in terms of especially the first half, but we were gritty and we were tough, and we made the plays at both ends when we needed to.
And then, obviously this team is shooting a little better than last season's team as well, but I'm not sure, looking at you guys, what has changed. Do you think you guys are creating better shots, or do you think it's more of players taking some steps in their own personal games?
Oh, there's no doubt. I mean, I can show you the growth in everybody's game. I mean, it's a tribute to our players. It's a tribute to our coaches and the job that they do helping guys get better. I mean, everybody's numbers are up and improved. That just doesn't happen by, sitting on your couch playing, 2K or whatever. You get your butt in the gym and work, and that's what that's our whole program. Our program's development. They're bigger, they're stronger, they're faster. Their body weights are where they should be. Their games are better. So that's what we do here. We take a lot of pride in getting guys better.
Thanks, Brad.
Hey, Brad, I wanted to ask you a little bit. I know you talked a lot about the 7:30 a.m. COVID update. How exactly do you get word? And like I've had myself have had a COVID test, my wife, my daughters. I mean, the anxiety I feel when the results are out there is crazy. How do you handle it every day, waiting for that 7:30 a.m.? I mean, maybe you're giving me a tip, but how do you do it?
Yeah, prayer. I mean, it's hard. It is the most uneasy time of my day. And I keep, I every time my phone rings and I don't have the results, I'm literally praying it's not our trainer. It's not Paul Schmidt. Please do not be Paul. And it is, because you're not just responsible for yourself. There's 30 people in our tier 1 group, and any of those people could trigger it. And, it's Jim, when you've got coaches with young kids who go to school, or you've got wives who work and they come home, and it's all the other people that they connect with, and I keep stressing to them as much as our players, it's our circle. If they're not dealing in everyday testing, don't talk to them, and don't hang out with them. And I've got a daughter in a sorority. I don't let her come home, and she's got to be masked. If she does, she's got to be masked up, and I'm not around her. And it's just, so she stays away most of the time. So that's the challenge of basketball during COVID.
What exactly happens at 7:30? Do you get a text? Do you get a?
We do. We go in. We do a saliva test, which is our university PCR, and then we do the antigen, which is the nasal swab, which is the Big Ten test. Within 15 to 20 minutes, usually 15, we have a group of 8, I think 8 nurses that are here, 7 or 8. They're handling them all. They're running the test. We get a little card back that has a green on it if you're good, and then we can leave. Then later in the day, usually around noon, 1 o'clock, we get the results from the PCR through an email and through the app that is the university app, the Safer Illinois app. So we get that, we all look at it, we fill out a survey every morning before we come in, what buildings we're gonna be in, do we have symptoms? And that gets ran through the university medical people. So it's a everyday process. First thing I do every morning when I get up is fill out my app and my survey.
Thank you.
I think it's me. Yeah, I wanted to follow up with what Jeremy had asked you. And I know, when you guys had a cancellation before and a long gap, you were actively looking for games. I know it's up in the air about Michigan, but do you guys have like contingency or work on contingency plans for that? Or do you wait and just, hope for the Big Ten to arrange something if this scenario plays out?
Yeah, it's really hard, Shannon, to do contingency because we could set something and then the Big Ten might flip it and say, okay, we're going to move a game here. And that impacts if we did a non-league game. I'm pretty much to the point now where I won't do a non-league game. We're too close to the end to risk anybody else's testing protocols other than our own. And so more than likely I would, and I should never say never, but more than likely I would not. And most people don't want to play, to be honest, at this time of year. But I can't risk our players, student athletes, players, coaches getting it right now if it would come from a non-league opponent that's not in our testing.
And then I also wanted to ask you, I know this is coming up, a home game, but I remember talking to you and you mentioning during the non-conference portion, just some of the things you were thinking about with travel, during the pandemic and playing. And I'm just wondering, what has been the hardest part about traveling right now? Maybe even with building team chemistry or just logistics of getting things done. Can you kind of take me through a little bit of the challenges or what you figured out through this?
Yeah, I think the one thing everybody in our league, for the most part, is eliminated night before shoot arounds. We've had to figure out, Saturday's a 1:30 test. So we have to take the Big Ten antigen test within 16 hours of tip. So, if it's, Rutgers, we had to get up at 5 in the morning or 5 for a 6 a.m. test because we had to drive to their testing facility. Those things are completely new and different, that part of it. But I think we've cut back on the amount of time. We've been very, very restrictive in hotels as to guys not leaving rooms other than our meeting room. No interaction with anybody else. We've talked a lot about that. That piece has been very different. But it's it's hard. Our director of operations, Joey Biggs, has done yeoman's work because everything does change and happen pretty quickly with all the delays, and it'll be a madhouse. But if we could leave the day of the game, there would be some of those days we would probably do that and may have to do that as we head into what I think will be a very busy end of the month.
What about just that team? I mean, a lot of guys, they remember like the team meals and going on to a restaurant out on the road, and that builds some, camaraderie. What's lacking there with this?
Yeah, a lot. And, we've spent a lot of time talking about, as we head into postseason and the Big Ten tournament, making sure we take gaming systems. There's nothing worse than, there's nothing worse than sitting in a hotel room. I can't do it. I hate it. And you've got a 9 o'clock game Eastern time. That's a long day. But taking gaming systems, putting them in our meeting room so guys can interact and hang out, or, taking workout equipment, because we don't go to workout rooms. Fletch would always work guys out that maybe weren't playing a lot. That stuff, we don't go to workout rooms. So, all this stuff may have to go to the Big Ten tournament and postseason tournament, may have to travel with us and try to do those things, because it does get really challenging to create those interactions. I've noticed our guys sit in the pregame meals a lot, and our meals a lot longer now than they do in the past. They used to kind of, get up and eat and do their deal. Now they all kind of hanging around because they want that interaction.
Thanks a lot.
Hey, Brad, circling back to Wisconsin, what kind of problems does Micah Potter give you guys as an opposing player?
Good athlete, length, and a really good perimeter shooter. And, here's a guy that stretches the floor, and he can score on the block. And so he's not just a one-hit wonder. He's a guy that has tremendous skills, and he's got a little bounce to him. And he presents himself quite nicely at the rim defensively. So he's a handful.
Thanks, Brad.
Okay, that's it for Coach.
I just had a
Coach,
quick one.
Okay, all right, this has got to be the last one. He's got
All right.
something 11:30.
Are you making sure your team is off on Sunday at about 5 o'clock or so?
They may not be off, but I will be. No, we'll again, this is where we kind of get in the uneasiness of, I'll be watching the Chiefs, but we'll have something figured out one way or another. But it's kind of the uneasiness of not knowing now what our day off will be, depending on what transpires here in the next 3 or 4 days next couple days with possible games.
Sure. Well, I got no horse in the race, so go Chiefs on your behalf.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Okay, Coach, leave that running. I'm going to bring Georgie in. He's ready.